Welcome back. In today's class, we will look at strings in more detail. Previously, we saw how to declare and define a new string, how to join or concatenate two strings, how to use the multiplication operator with strings, and how to iterate those strings. Today, we will revisit some of these concepts, but we will see them in more detail. And we will also look at how to do string indexing, string slicing, and use some basic string methods to do manipulation of strings. First, let's see whether there is any difference between initializing a string using a single quote or a double quote string literal. So in line 8, I'm declaring a new string variable string1. It's initialized with hello space world, which is created using single quotes. In line 9, I'm creating string2, initializing again with hello space world, this time created using double quotes. Now to compare these two strings, we can use the equal to operator. So the equal to operator will return true when the strings are the same, and it will return false when the strings are different. So here I'm checking whether string1 is equal to string2. If string1 is equal to string2, we will print they are the same. Otherwise, we will print they are different. So first, let's run the program till line 21 and check whether string1 is equal to string2. Notice we see they are the same, which means these two strings are equal. What this means is, in Python, we can use either single quote string literals or double quote string literals to initialize new strings. Python language supports both of them, so it's the choice of the programmer to choose one of these two methods and to use it consistently throughout the program. Now, the equal to operator is case sensitive. That is, suppose if I try to compare apple with apple and one of the apple has an uppercase A, notice the comparison fails. For the equal to operator to return true, both the apples should be of the same case. Now there are some special scenarios in which we need to be a little more careful. So suppose our string literal has a special character, then we need to pay attention. We need to either use an escape character, which we saw in C++, which is the \, or when our special character is a single quote, we can use double quotes to create the string literal. So here my string is yes I am, which has a single quote. Since it has a single quote, I'm using double quotes to create the string literal. And in line 23, I'm using escape character to escape the single quote, and I'm using single quotes to create the string literal. Now again, let's verify whether these two strings are the same or not. So if they're the same, we should see they're the same, otherwise they're different. Okay, so again, we see that these two strings are the same. So there is no difference between using double quotes to create string literals which have a single quote as part of a string, or we can use escape character to escape the single quote. Now similarly, when our special character is a double quote, we can use single quotes to create the string literal, or if we want to be consistent and use double quotes to create our string literals, we can use escape character to escape the quotes on both sides. So these two should print sweet is an ice cream with sweet in double quotes. Okay, so notice when we execute the first print statement, we see sweet is an ice cream with sweet in double quotes. Now similarly, when I execute the next line, we should see sweet is an ice cream again with sweet in double quotes. Now, when we go to functions, we will see that functions will, when we define a new function, we will create what's known as a docstring. To create this docstring, we need to know how to create multi-line strings. To create multi-line strings in Python, we will begin a string with using 3 single quotes or 3 double quotes. So any string that begins with 3 single quotes or 3 double quotes creates a multi-line string. These strings can span multiple lines. However, it is still a single string literal. So when we execute this print statement, we should see this is a multi-line string, and we will see the same format in which we define the string to be displayed on the terminal. So even though it's a single string, we see that it is spanning multiple lines. Similarly, there is no difference between using a single or a double quote, so this second thing also should print the same thing. Okay. Now, when we are working with paths, we will have to be a little more careful with using single or double quotes to create the string literal. So here I'm declaring a variable called file path and initializing it with c:\sum \name. Now, let's first print file path as is and then check whether it prints it as a c:\sum \name or b c: in the next line \sum \name or c:\sum and in the next line ame or d something else. So first let's look at the output and then let's try to reason why we see the particular response. Now notice we see the third option, which is c:\sum and in the next line ame. The reason why c is the correct answer is because the first backslash is properly displayed. However, when we come to the second backslash, notice the next character is n. Backslash n is also the new line character. So when backslash n is parsed, c:\sum is displayed on the first line, \sum will take us to the next line, and ame is displayed on the next line. Now, in order to avoid this, we need to escape the second backslash. We don't need to escape the first backslash because backslash s does not correspond to anything. So since backslash n corresponds to new line, we will escape the second backslash. Now this time the correct answer should be A. It should print c:\sum \name. Okay, so again, when we are working with paths, we need to be extra careful as to when we should use the escape character to escape. To be safe, you can also use backslash. You can escape all the backslashes in the path so that you will not encounter issues like these. Next, let's look how to index strings. So in C++, when we worked with std : string, we saw we could use the square bracket operator and access any character of the string, any element of the character of a string using the square bracket operator. Similarly, in Python, we can access a single character of the string using the square bracket operator by providing it with an index. So first I'm declaring a variable called class name, initializing it with programming_for_engineers. And we will first print the number of characters this particular string has. We can use the inbuilt method len to compute the number of characters that are present in the string. So first let's execute till here and check how many characters are part of this string. Okay, notice programming_for_engineers has 25 characters. So we can use the square bracket operator and go from index 0 to 24 to access the individual characters of this string. So when I print class name of 0, we will see the first character. So let's execute the next line. And now notice first character in programming_for_engineers is P. Similarly, to access the second character, we can simply write class name square brackets 1, and this should print the second character, which is R. Now, in C++, we can only traverse strings in forward direction. That is, the indices are always positive. In Python, we can also traverse the string in the reverse direction. That is, we can provide negative indices, and Python will now display the last character. So class name of -1 is equivalent to writing class name of length of class name -1. Since length of class name gives us the total number of characters, length of class name -1 will give us the last character. The index begins from 0, so it ends at length of class name -1. So let's execute the next line, and now notice the last character in programming_for_engineers is S. So again, to access the penultimate character, we can simply write class name of -2. And this time we should see R. So string indexing works in both positive and negative direction. So we can either use positive indices to go in the forward direction or negative indices to go in the reverse direction. Now there are a couple of different ways to iterate through strings. We can create a new integer sequence for indices and then use the square bracket operator to access a particular character of the string using the index variable. Or we can simply use the syntax which we saw in the last class, which is for char in class name, wherein char points to one of the characters of the string, and in each new iteration it will point to the next character. So first let's look at the syntax for creating an integer sequence and using the square bracket operator to access a particular element. So here I'm using range function which we saw in the last class. It takes 3 parameters. The first parameter is the start of the integer sequence, which is optional. The default value is 0. The second parameter is the end of the sequence. Here I want to create a sequence which begins at 0, goes up to length of class name -1, and then each new integer in the sequence should be 1 more than the previous integer. So the step size is equal to 1, which is again the default value. Now within the body of this for loop, I'm checking whether the current character is equal to I, or whether it's equal to u. If it's equal to I or u, we will see there is an I or u. Otherwise, we will do nothing. We will simply go to the next character. So first let's execute the first for loop. Okay, there must be something wrong here, so let's restart the program. Okay, notice we see the print statement twice. So we see the print statement twice because there are 2 i's in our programming_for_engineers. We will also see 2 times if there is 1 I, 1 u, or if there are 2 u's. However, in our case, we have 2 i's, and therefore we see the print statement twice. Now, similarly, we can simplify this for loop. If all we are interested is individual characters and we want to loop through every character in our string, we can simplify and use this syntax, which is the more Pythonic way of writing the for loop, wherein char will point to a particular character. It begins at the first position, and at each new iteration, it will go to the next position in order. Again, I'm simply checking whether char is equal to I, or whether it's equal to u. If it's equal to I or u, we will see there is an I or u. So we should again see 2 i's and 2 u. Since we have 2 i's, we should see this print statement twice. Okay. Next, let's see how to do string slicing. So string indexing lets us to access one single character in our string. String slicing can be used to access a group of characters. So the syntax works as follows. Suppose str is the name of our string variable. We can use the square brackets operator, and within square brackets operator, we can create a new sequence. To create a new sequence, the syntax is as follows. Start : end will create a new sequence beginning at start, and the sequence goes up to end -1. So all the characters that go from start to end -1 will be returned when we write this particular code. So let's first check what will be the answer for this particular statement here. So here I want to print class name of 0:11. First, let's check how many characters are there in option A. Notice option A is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now 0 to 11 will create a new sequence which goes from 0 to 10. 0 to 10 has 11 characters. So this seems like the most likely answer because the second choice has 12 characters. So this should not be the right answer. Now first, let's see what will be the character at index 11. At index 11, we should see the character to be underscore. Okay, So since index 11 is underscore and we are slicing this to go from 0 to 10, the correct answer should be programming. So if I execute the next line, class name of 0:11 should give us programming. So if we want to query a substring of our string, we can use string slicing to access the substring. Now there are several different variants where we can, with which we can call this slicing method. Here I'm only providing a start index. The end index is not provided. So it goes from start to end of the string. Similarly, here start is missing, only end is provided, which means it begins from 0 and goes to end minus 1. And when we simply write colon without start or end, it again goes from 0 to length of string minus 1. That is, it traverses the whole string. Okay, so again, I'm just simply showing you what happens when we try to slice from 0, which is the beginning, until length of class name. So this should print the whole string, which is programming underscore for underscore engineers. Okay, next let's check what happens when we slice using a negative index. So these indices can be both positive and negative. So here my start is 0 and my end is minus 1, which means my sequence begins at 0 and goes to length of class name minus 2. So the correct answer should be programming of engineers. The last character will not be part of this slice. So let's verify the answer. Okay, so notice now the correct answer is B, programming for engineer. Okay, so next we will see how to use some inbuilt methods to manipulate strings. The first inbuilt method that we are seeing is the replace method. So we can use replace method to replace some characters within our string. Here I want to replace all underscores using dash. So the first argument that I pass to the replace method is the character that I want to replace. The second parameter is the character that I want to replace by. So here I want to replace programming, so replace the two underscores using 2 dash. So the correct answer should be A. So let's verify again. Notice the correct answer was programming dash for dash engineers. So to replace a specific character, we can simply use the replace method.